Yes, good morning and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel on this beautiful Thursday morning, 20 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. Down in Kampala when we do come to you live. And I hope you're doing great. I hope you've had a fresh and beautiful start to your day. Anyways, allow me have our audios tested. Make sure everything does check out. Good morning, Pedri. Uh, how are you doing, my brother? How is it going? Are you excited? The international break is officially good and done, and we are destined for a return of some league action from the Spanish La Liga, the Premier League, German Bundesliga, Italian Serie A, French League One, and everywhere else that you may find fun from. So yeah, the resumption of that action should be really, really exciting for many of us from the football arena. And yeah, might I say that it will be a blockbuster weekend in the return of football. I've already seen some people uh, looking to their, itinerary of league fixtures and in other competitions to see what's to come for them, how hot it will be. I was shocked yesterday to find out that Nigeria can still qualify for the World Cup. Yeah, your shock is as good as mine because of you know, I think is it a one better goal difference after points deductions that see the likes of Burkina or Burkina Faso fall down in the pecking order. It's something that has been called, for lack of a better word, unfair in a way. And I need to dig a little deeper into what the permutations are to that regard. But yeah, your surprise was as good as mine. But sometimes football gets decisions to be made in the boardroom. As much as we do not like it to be in that way, we cannot sort of wish it away. That sometimes it's done that way. So yeah, I'll try. I'll try to give you what. Okay, it all started with a circular that was put out by the Confederation of African Football Associations, that's CAF. And in that circular, they were talking about how to make the whole draw or the qualification fair for teams that are finished second to go and play in that sort of playoff, that they needed to have points deducted of the teams. So, for example, they look at the points you gathered from the bottom team in the league, sorry, in the group, and those points have to be deducted. So, I'll give you the example of Uganda Cranes, particularly. They amassed 6 points against Somalia. Somalia finished bottom of Group G. Now, when you deduct their 6 points from the 18 points that they amassed in total to finish second of Group G behind Algeria, that leaves them at 12 points. So, in sort of a similar situation, uh, points have to be deducted from other, countries, and that particularly was explained because Eritrea opted out of the qualifiers. So that meant in the group in which they were meant to be, you had lesser teams. So instead of 6 teams playing in the qualifiers, you had 5 teams participate, and that was in Group E. In Group E, you had Morocco, you had Niger, you had Tanzania, you had Zambia, and Congo. That's the Republic of Congo and Eritrea. Now, Eritrea opted out. So remember, all pools or all groups had 6 teams at the start. Now, because they opted out, to make it fair across all groups in terms of grading, because it would be sort of unjust or unfair, for example, to look at a team like Niger, who finished with 15 points, having not played against Eritrea because they opted out, and compare them to, let's say, a Uganda Cranes, who finished second with 18 points, yet in that break, they played a team that finished bottom in Somalia. So they collected 6 points off of them. So they decided that in each of the groups, they will have to deduct the points that you collected from the bottom team in the group. So, for example, again, in Group A, you have Djibouti finishing bottom with 1 point. So, if you're in the second place team, that's Burkina Faso from Group A behind Egypt because they finished at 21 points. That means if you amassed, let's say, 6 points against Djibouti in the home and away tie, that's 21 points minus the 6. So that leaves you at what? That leaves you at about 15 points. Then you go to Senegal. Sorry, you go to DRC Congo. In their group, it's South Sudan who finished bottom. So if you deduct, let's say you amass 6 points over South Sudan. So for DRC Congo, that would leave you at about 16 points, in that sort of nature. Now, when you come to Nigeria, in Group C, so for example, it could be, and I need to find what the actual results were. So it could be the case that Nigeria picked actually very few points of Zimbabwe. So in other words, if you amassed only 3 points from the bottom side, let's say you beat them once and they beat you once, they will only deduct 3 points. If you met them and beat them once and the other was a draw, they will deduct only 4 points. Out on BBC, it still says Nigeria is out of qualification. It maybe needs updating. Now, again, because this has come up because literally everybody has been trying to do their own calculations, and because what we looked at simply, like I was explaining the other night, was that when you look at the teams that finished second best across all groups, before you do the entire points deductions as per the circular issued by CAF, you find that Gabon are top because they finished with 25 points. You have DRC Congo in second. You have Burkina Faso in third. You have Cameroon in fourth at 19 points. You have Madagascar with a similar tally of points in 5th place. Uganda Cranes would come sixth. Nigeria, Namibia, and then Niger. Now, if you go through that permutation that I've just explained of having to deduct points that you amassed from the team that finished bottom in the league, that's where now the difference starts to come. So, for example, if you're Nigeria and you're 7th in this, group of 9 teams that finished second best, and you only took 3 points of the bottom team in your group, that means you land at 13 points. Now, you're in 7th place at the moment. In comparison to Uganda, that is 6th, they deduct 6 from their 18. It puts them at 12. So automatically, then Nigeria moves above Uganda. So the context or the iteration goes through all those teams. Now, particularly, I will say that for Gabon, let's say, even if you deduct 6 points, they will still finish at 19. They will still be better than, Nigeria. When you deduct 6 points off of DRC's 22, you would still land at 16 points. Now, unless you're saying Nigeria did not amass any point whatsoever from the bottom team in their group, that was let me see. Yes, that was Zimbabwe. Then that's the only, then they can be above DRC Congo, even with the points deductions. So again, because Burkina Faso are complaining, because in the early calculations that were done, it did appear that Burkina Faso had been left out, because of those calculations. So you say it's because Nigeria lost the two games, you're the sixth place team in their group. Oh, not really. So, for example, and this was posted by ESPN with Steve Yogo complaining. Says, honestly, it's weird. You win your matches against the weakest team in your group, and yet Nigeria goes ahead of you, even though they didn't even beat Zimbabwe, the last team in their group. Apparently, beating the last team in the group is too mainstream. Thanks, CAF and FIFA, my career is coming to an end. I'll study the field so I can criticize you properly. So now again, the complaint in this case is if you finished second but failed to beat the bottom team in the group, then how do you qualify? Because using the other model of points deduction from the points that you amassed of the bottom team takes the presumption that that team was too weak, that it was literally beaten by everybody, or at least beaten by every team that finished second must have beaten that team. And yet, in this particular case, the argument, and this is according to Steve Yago's post, is saying that if you're saying Nigeria is strong, then why did they not beat up against Zimbabwe, a team that finished last in their own group? So me, who beat up against my opponents, fair and square, I should lose my place just because you made the rule, or you made sort of a regulation that points should be taken away from me for beating the team that was bottom. I hope you make sense of this. So, in simple terms, what Steve Yago's argument is for example, again, let's look at one particular example. In this case, it should be, let's look at for Burkina Faso. In my opinion, this is not fair, but I'm so happy because I want the World Cup 18 and 2022 to be recreated. I remember the Argentina-Nigeria game in 2018. Okay, now, particularly, I want us to use the example of Nigeria. So, you're Nigeria, you finished behind South Africa. Now, in a group where you have Benin, Lesotho, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe, might I mention that Nigeria, by pedigree, history, and everything there is you would have for argument's sake, was better than all the teams in this group. But South Africa beat them to the punch and qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 2010. Now, you're telling a team like Burkina Faso, who in Group A managed to beat up against Djibouti, who finished bottom of their league, of their group, sorry. And then you're telling them you are going to deduct points that you took off Djibouti. Now, then you come to Nigeria, and Nigeria is happy to say, oh, I'm lucky I did not beat up against Zimbabwe because they finished bottom of the group, and therefore I did not lose any points. You know, you see how it becomes unfair, you know, two teams. At the moment, I cannot really tell you what's the fair model to use, but I understand Steve Yago's argument of saying, hold on a second. If Nigeria could not beat up against their bottom side in the league, in the group, how then do they get to qualify ahead of me just because I managed to beat up against that very opponent, and yet or my own opponent? And you see, so it becomes, so if, in other words, if you beat up against the bottom team in your group, you're at a disadvantage in comparison to a team that finished second, but were unable to beat up against the bottom team. Basically, that's what they're saying. In other words, are we rewarding mediocrity? Are we rewarding failure in this particular case? It's a case of if you win, it's good. If you lose, it's bad. But then when we get at the tail end of things, we are saying those who lost are the lucky ones. How does that make sense? Make it make sense. Of course, it wouldn't make sense. But like I said, CAF explained it in the context of Eritrea being, bowing out. I think maybe if our CAF, I wouldn't want to go down the path of points deduction based on how you first off with the bottom team. I'll go in the direction of, let's see how many points you did amass. First of all, like, it's not anybody's fault that Eritrea bow out, but you can only deal the hand that you've been given. And in this particular case, Burkina Faso dealt the hand of Djibouti because that's what they were given. Morocco dealt the hand they were given, and they never had to face Eritrea. So, in other words, in their Group E, they played 2 less games compared to all the other teams that ended up playing 10 games in the qualifiers. So, is it fair? Obviously not, or most definitely not. It doesn't sound fair. It is not fair, not one bit, really. But I think it's safe to say that CAF are caught between a rock and a hard place. And again, it's not the first time this kind of model has been used in football before, because we have had teams opt out of qualifiers because either they can't afford it, or sometimes due to instability in countries and things like that. So those things have happened before. So it's not unique to this situation alone. However, it does not take away that feeling of injustice on the teams that have worked their way through it all, So I think that's what we must acknowledge. That's what we must acknowledge, to say that it's not fair. Indeed, it is not fair. Indeed, it's not fair. So, but let me see what more reaction there was to it. So, for example, the winners. So, for example, in this particular context, Nigeria will face off with Gabon. Cameroon will be up against DRC Congo, following the implementation of those permutations. So that means what you have left out is Burkina Faso, and they're the most hard done by. I think Niger, Namibia, Uganda can hardly complain. And so would Madagascar, because for them they were already behind. But how then Nigeria leapfrogs everybody else and takes Burkina Faso's place is what has caused this media star in the wake of those, in the wake of those that announcement. So blame whoever you want to blame, but it's CAF's rules. The rest just have to play by those rules. And yeah, surprisingly, you know how football can be cruel in a sense that that the best team doesn't always win. You could have Nigeria pipping all these guys, and then suddenly are going to the continental playoff. And once they go to the continental playoff, anything can happen. They could go through. So that's basically the nature of it. That's basically the nature of it. And okay. Another explanation to it is here. Of course, like I said, CAF clarified because of because of Eritrea's withdrawal from the qualifiers. And they decided that all results against the last place teams will be nullified, determining on who qualifies for the playoffs. So the reason was to ensure fairness. And like I said, you cannot blame it on CAF. You cannot blame it on any of the teams that played in these qualifiers to say that they are at fault for Eritrea's withdrawal. Bad things happen. So in this particular case, so that means the total points you could have amassed from the bottom team would be 6 points. So since all the teams in the group of Eritrea, I think that's the group E of Morocco, would have gotten 6 free points, while others playing for it in their groups. So for example, when you forfeit a game, you lose the game by forfeiture, and then the team you are supposed to play against gets 3 points and usually 3 goals. Now, just imagine the case was such that CAF had awarded. Free Gaming says, what was your think of Neymar? Free Fire Gaming. Hi, Free Fire Gaming. Good morning. Where are you joining us from this beautiful morning? It's a morning here in Kampala, Uganda. But let's get to Neymar in just a bit. We are still explaining the conundrum or how Nigeria got into the World Cup playoffs for Africa, yet they finished. They were seventh. In the table of teams that finished second best from those respective groups. So, you're from Nepal. How is Nepal? Have things stabilized? Last I checked, you guys, were demonstrating, and overthrowing your government. Have things stabilized now? I hope you're okay. But do me the absolute honor and favor and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So, back to the explanations. So, Madagascar had 6 points from Chad, who were the last in their group. In their group. So, that means you deduct 6 points. From Madagascar, they land at 13 points. Burkina Faso had 6 points from Djibouti. They had a total of 21 points. You take off the 6, it puts them at 15. Nigeria, on the other hand, had only 2 points from Zimbabwe. Only 2 points. That means they played 2 draws, or their results were 2 draws. I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Thanks for asking. Free Fire Gaming. I'm from Uganda. That's in Africa. Africa is the continent. Then in the sub-region of East Africa, there's a small landlocked country called Uganda. That's where I'm from. So, but thanks for asking. So, Nigeria took only 2 points of Zimbabwe. So that means when you deduct the 2 points from their 17 total tally of points, it puts them at 15. Now, you go to goal difference. Of course, by the virtue of the fact that Burkina Faso had beaten Djibouti with some goals, they've definitely got to lose that sort of plus goal advantage because all those results are nullified in a way, So that's where Nigeria got through. That's how they managed to get through. So this makes the tie on points with Burkina Faso and Nigeria qualify with a superior goal aggregate, which is 13 goals scored with 6 against, meaning a goal difference of 7. Burkina Faso scored 13 goals with 7 against, which puts them at a goal difference of 6. So Nigeria, in essence, had a better goal difference of 1 extra goal in comparison to Burkina Faso. So, and again, this is something we discussed some time back. This is something we discussed some time back when CAF issued that memo. So, comparing the second place teams, that's step 2 on the circular by CAF. They said, and I quote, there will be 9 second place teams, one from each group, to compare them fairly. The results against the last place team in each group are not counted. This means only matches against the top 5 teams in each group are used for the competition. Exception, Group E has only 5 teams because Eritrea withdrew. Therefore, for Group E, all results will count as there is no 6th team to exclude. After the adjustment, the best runners-up are ranked using the same tie-breaking criteria found in Article 11.5 of the FIFA World Cup 2026 regulations, e.g., points, goal difference, goal squad, etc. So those are the permutations that CAF used to arrive to that tie, and that's how Nigeria are going to go through at the expense of Burkina Faso, which has caused a bit of a stir amongst the Burkinabe, amongst some African football fans. But yeah, that's the whole explanation of it. So I hope, Pedri, you now grasp the whole concept and how it came about, and it does eventually settle or ease your mind on how we did arrive to this situation. Anyways, to answer Free Fire Gaming, he says, "What do I think about Neymar?" Although I do not think you've not given me enough context. What do you mean? What do I think about Neymar? First of all, in general, he's a very, very great player. I think one of the best that has played the game. Bar not winning the Ballon d'Or, I think he should have won it back in 20. Should have been back in 2015. Yeah, 2015 when they won the treble. I think he had a great opportunity when we won the Champions League, beating Juventus in the finals. I thought that was a great opportunity, but he didn't, of course. Injuries have not helped his game. In terms of personal character, he had things to work on. For some reason, every time it was approaching his sister's birthday, he got injured, and there were questions raised over that. So, in that sense. But overall, yeah, he's a very outstanding player and a very, very much loved player in Brazil. So that's what I will say about Neymar. Neymar Santos Jr. Meanwhile, I need to remember to work on my fantasy Premier League team. Anyways, like I said, we've concluded or we've wrapped up the international break, and league football is set to return. And in the Spanish La Liga, things will kick off tomorrow, as well as in the German Bundesliga and the French League One. Action will return on Friday night with Rio Oviedo up against Espanyol. In the German Bundesliga, Union Berlin will be up against Borussia Mönchengladbach, while in the French League One, Paris Saint-Germain will be up against Strasbourg as far as the fixture schedule goes. And then particularly on Saturday, we'll have many, many games to be played in the Premier League. Action will kick off between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest at 2:30 p.m. We will get time to, I think, tonight, in tonight's podcast, we will try to digest these games further, of course, through Friday and then Saturday morning, provided we are granted the good health. So, Chelsea will have the early kickoff upon resumption, upon the return of match day 8. Brighton will be up against Newcastle at 5 p.m. Burnley will be at home against Leeds. Crystal Palace will entertain FC Bournemouth, all kicking off at 5 p.m. While Manchester City will be at home against Everton. That means Jack Grealish, who is on loan from Manchester City, won't be permitted to play in that game. Sunderland will be at home against Wolverhampton Wanderers at the same kickoff time, while in the late kickoff of Saturday at 7:30 p.m., Fulham will take on Arsenal in that sort of regard. So yeah, do not miss out on all that action. That's for Saturday. In the Spanish La Liga, Sevilla will be up against Mallorca. Barcelona will be up against Girona at a 5:15. Sevilla's game will come at 3 p.m. Villarreal will take on Real Betis at 7:30 p.m. while Atletico de Madrid at 10 p.m. will have a date with Osasuna. In the German Bundesliga, Cologne will be up against Augsburg. Heidenheim will take on Werder Bremen. Mainz will be up against Bayer Leverkusen. RB Leipzig will be up against Hamburg. Wolfsburg will take on VfB Stuttgart. While we do have a very, very big game again at 7:30 p.m. On Saturday between Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund in the Klassiker. That's in the Bundesliga. So do not miss out on all that action. In the Italian Serie A, Lecce will be up against Sassuolo. Pisa will take on Hellas Verona. Torino will be at home against Napoli, while AC Roma will be at home against Inter Milan in that regard. So do not miss out on all that action. And then on Super Sunday, again, do not forget we have the very, very big game in the Premier League. But the early kickoff at 4 p.m. will be between Tottenham Hotspur and Aston Villa, while at 6:30 p.m. we will have Liverpool up against Manchester United. That will be the biggest game of the weekend in as far as Premier League football is concerned. While in the German Bundesliga, they have the Klassiker between Bayern Munich and Dortmund. Although Bayern Munich have had, based on how they've started the season, I think they will prove to be one too strong for Dortmund, but anything can happen in such a fixture. We'll have to wait and see what the result will be. In the Spanish La Liga on Super Sunday, Elche will be up against Athletic Bilbao, Celta Vigo will be up against Sociedad, while Levante will be up against Rayo Vallecano, and then at 10 p.m. On Super Sunday, Real Madrid will play away to Getafe. And then in the German Bundesliga, Hoffenheim will be up against St. Pauli, Frankfurt will take on Freiburg, in that sort of context. In the Italian Serie A, Como will have a date with Juventus. Cagliari will be at home against Bologna. Girona will be at home to Parma, while Atlanta will be at home to Lazio. AC Milan will be against Fiorentina. So that's the action that will be coming your way after the international break that you should be looking out for. In some of the major news stories coming through, for example, from Arsenal, there's an expectation that Kai Havertz could return earlier than anticipated. I'm not saying it's going to be this weekend, but he has been speeding up his recovery, and I think it was being reported yesterday by the hand of Arsenal that apparently the Arsenal staff have been amazed on how he's fast-tracked his rehab, and he's getting better and better by the day. So when he will actually return, that remains to be seen. But there's an anticipation that Arsenal could have 3 players return either slightly prior or immediately after the November international break. That's Kai Havertz, Noni Madueke, and then the captain, Martin Odegaard. So that's something I have to look forward to. So do Arsenal fans, I do not know whether it causes you to be excited, but at least that's what's happening. And it's going to be, I think there'll be about 10 games that Arsenal will have to play between now and the next international break. I think there will be 4 games in the Premier League. There will be 2 games in the UEFA Champions League. They'll have another game in the Carabao Cup, I think. Then what else? I don't remember. Is it 10 games or 7? But I know they'll be playing every 3 days. Hi LFC, how are you doing, my brother? Good to have you back. Sorry, cannot stay. I have mathematics homework. Homework? You're doing homework at 7:54 a.m. I would have asked what you were up to last night, but since you didn't show up for our broadcast, did you show up? Not that I recall. I'll take it that your schedule is tight. But thank you so much for chipping in. I understand. Take care of that homework. so that you stay on the good side of the teachers or your tutors in that respect. So, anyways. Anyways, yes. What more can I add to that? Yes, I wanted to give you a fixture count, just for us to be sure on what will come before the next international break for some of your teams. For some of your teams. Yes, against the up against Fulham, Atletico de Madrid, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Burnley, Slavia Praha, and then Sunderland. That's all before the international break. So they will play at least 7 games. Yes, 7 games. Yes, it's not 10; it will be 7. As many other teams will be. Same will happen for Liverpool. Same will happen for Manchester City. Same will happen for Chelsea. Not the same will happen for Manchester United because they're not in the Champions League. They're not anywhere in Europe. They're out of the Carabao Cup, so they're going to be playing 1-1 game. And on that note, therefore, after the weekend, I think, after their fixture against Liverpool, that's on the weekend. All the other fixtures for Manchester United will come on Monday night, in Monday Night Football. Oh, not free, not as such. They have Liverpool on Sunday. They will play Brighton the following Saturday. Then I think 1st November. Let's see. 1st November should be a Saturday, yes. And then, what were Man United fans mourning about? Then 8th November will equally be a Saturday, But anyways, that all will be happening for Man United. That all will be happening. So Man United fans, I think you should sit tight, Reed. You should sit tight. You're going to be playing one game and then relax and wait for the weekend. Other teams will have so many fixtures to contend with, but I think they will manage. So tonight we'll be doing the previews for some of those fixtures to see how those respective teams will fare in as far as match day 8 of the Premier League will go. It will come with its own pressures for different teams. For Ange Postecoglou, who is yet to win a game so far since being charged of Nottingham Forest, replacing Nuno Espirito Santo. It's going to be a different challenge for Ed Howe and Newcastle. Burnley and Leeds, two newly promoted sides. The last time Burnley played against a newly promoted side was against Sunderland, and they beat them by 2-0. So, yeah, Everton will have some defensive work to do at the Etihad Stadium. Sunderland at home, that should be a winnable fixture against Wolves, not because the opponent is easy, but if you want to survive relegation, then those are some of the games you should be winning up on. Arsenal, who are without a victory at Craven Cottage in the last 2 outings, will have everything to play for, including solidifying or further extending their stay at the summit of the Premier League. So we will see. We will get to digest it all in the coming, starting tonight. So I will be giving you the previews and any other news that will be coming out from your respective clubs. Thank you so much, LFC. Thank you so much, Free Gaming. Thank you so much, Pedri, for chipping into today's today morning's podcast. To all our new subscribers, thank you so much. I say welcome to the community. Welcome to the Football Tribe community. I hope you enjoy your stay with us. I hope you go to the channel under the video section, under the short section, under the live section, and watch all our content, whether recent or otherwise, and give us your thoughts on the different manners, topics that they are happy. I did have that interview that I had promised you with Kasuku. Kuku was a banger. We had that. He gave us his very, very wonderful take on the new Uganda Premier League format. He gave his take on the Manchester United, saying that they are title contenders, but if results do not improve, then Ruben Amorim could be gone by December or January. And he did say, interestingly, that he would rather have Sir Gareth Southgate manage Manchester United because of his, knowledge about English football and how, and how United need to revert to the traditional English game and things like that. So do let me know what your thoughts are on those different topics that will be discussed over there. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you. Have yourselves a blessed day. It's 10 a.m. Allow me go for my other respective engagements. I wish you the very best of luck today. So bye-bye, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay blessed.